She told me to be proud of her, that if other men flirted with her, it meant she still had it. I said, "You're right." Then I posted a photo with someone I hadn't seen in years, a woman she used to call unthreatening. That word never left me. But the comments? They did the talking. We weren't the kind of couple that argued. We made jokes, sarcastic ones, and eventually, the jokes replaced actual intimacy. She liked being noticed. She said I was lucky that she turned heads. It meant I had a catch. I used to laugh that off. I used to think I was secure. But jokes were down a person when they're always at your expense. When every party ends with a wink, a laugh, and someone whispering, "Man, she's a handful. How do you deal with that?" And I'd smile, because I thought keeping peace was maturity. Turns out, maturity looks a lot like silence. It was a rooftop party, one of those nights where everyone is just tipsy enough to say things they'll pretend they didn't mean. She wore that black dress she always said made her feel like herself. I noticed how she touched her hair a little more often when she laughed, how she leaned in when the bartender cracked a joke. I stayed back, not in the corner, but not next to her either. I was always told that trust meant giving space, letting someone be admired. She liked to say we were modern. I took that to mean, don't be insecure. So I wasn't. Not even when a guy, some mutual friend of a friend, made a comment about how she didn't look married. She laughed, told him, "Oh, he doesn't mind. He's proud when guys flirt with me. Aren't you, babe?" I nodded. People laughed. I laughed. But inside, it wasn't funny. It felt like someone pressed their finger into a bruise I didn't know I had. I kept sipping my drink, trying to convince myself it was fine, that this was confidence, that real couples weren't possessive. Later that night, she leaned into me in the elevator and said, "See? I still got it." I kissed her shoulder. I didn't say anything. Because what could I say? That it made me feel disposable? That it was exhausting playing the role of the secure one? The grown-up who doesn't get jealous? No, I let it pass, like I always did. And I think that's when something quietly shifted. Not in her, in me. I started clocking moments I'd normally ignore. How she'd smile when someone called her wild. How she'd introduce me as the calm one. The implication being, I was the boring half. The background. The audience to her show. She liked that role for me. I made her look bigger by comparison. It was just one night. Just one party. Just one joke. But it stuck. And I think it's the jokes that stick the longest, especially when you're the only one not laughing. After that party, things didn't get worse. That's the part that confused me. She didn't cheat. She didn't lie. She didn't raise her voice. She just kept performing. Every room we entered, she found a spotlight. Every conversation, she had a punchline. And I, apparently, had a role. The grounding presence. The one who kept her wildness in check. It became a joke among friends. She's the chaos, he's the calm. She's the storm, he's the anchor. She's the fire, he's the extinguisher. At some point I realized, being the anchor just meant I wasn't allowed to feel anything that rocked the boat. And when I did, if I flinched, if I frowned, if I asked, "Hey, what did you mean by that?" the answer came with a half smile and a tilted head. "Oh, come on. Don't be so sensitive." So I stopped asking. I let the sarcasm wash over me like warm rain. And maybe that's why it took so long to feel the cold underneath it. There's a strange loneliness that comes from being with someone who claims to love you, but only as long as you don't react. I started to notice how much she talked about herself, her ambitions, her reflections, her journey, and how little she ever asked about mine. We'd sit through dinners where she'd recount every micro-interaction she had that day. The compliment from her boss, the stare on the subway, the barista who gave her a free cookie just because. And I'd listen, because that was my job. I was the echo chamber, the nod, the reassuring smile that said, "Yes, you're special. Yes, you're seen." But I wasn't seen. I was used as proof. Proof that she was lovable. Proof that she was wanted. Proof that even with a partner, she was still desirable to others. And the irony? I never questioned her beauty. I never needed other men to validate it. But she did. She needed them to want her, and me to clap politely from the sidelines. I didn't hate her for it. I wasn't even angry. I was just tired. Of clapping. Of nodding. Of watching her shine while pretending I wasn't going dull. It wasn't always this bad. That's what I kept telling myself. Because when you bring something up once and get dismissed, you try again, softer. The next time I hinted that something didn't feel right, it was over dinner. I said something like, Do you ever feel like we're just playing characters? She smiled. Oh my God, are you writing a novel now? She thought I was being deep, or dramatic, or maybe both. So I laughed, changed the subject. Let her talk about her coworker's new tattoo instead. That's how it went. Any time I pushed, even gently, it got deflected, turned into a joke, reframed as a compliment. Or the worst one, turned back on me. You always overthink everything. I can't be fake around you without getting psychoanalyzed. Can't I just be in a good mood without it meaning something? Eventually I stopped bringing things up, but I didn't stop thinking them. That's the trap. You start second-guessing your own instincts. Was it really that bad? Did she actually mean it that way? Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I just don't know how to handle a confident woman. That word, confident, got weaponized a lot. Any resistance to her behavior meant I had a problem with strong women. It wasn't that she was crossing lines. It was that I was drawing them too tightly. So I loosened the lines. One by one. She flirted a little longer. I said nothing. She posted thirst traps with no caption. I liked them. She told her friends I was basically her therapist. I smiled. And every time I swallowed discomfort, it got easier. That's the scary part. You stop flinching when it hurts. You just nod. Like a trained dog. It's not that she was cruel. That would have been easier. I could have left. I could have pointed to bruises, verbal or otherwise, and said, see? Look what she did. But instead, it was this constant soft gaslight. A dimmer switch. Never enough to cause a scene. Always enough to make me question the lighting. And every time I spoke up and got minimized, my voice got quieter. Not externally. Internally. It's a special kind of silence. The one that happens inside your own head. You still hear yourself, but you don't believe it anymore. It was her best friend who first noticed something was off, or at least pretended to. We were at their place for wine night, just the three of us, and the girls were already 2 glasses deep before I'd even taken my jacket off. I don't drink much, so I sat on the floor, leaned against the couch, and just listened. At some point, the friend turned to me and said, "You're so quiet. You always are. Doesn't it bother you when she flirts like that?" She said it lightly, almost playfully, but her eyes stayed on me too long. My girlfriend laughed. Oh, he loves it. He thinks I'm a free spirit. And again, that word, loves. Not he tolerates it. Not we've talked about it. No, he loves it. As if I'd enthusiastically signed off on being the background noise to her public charisma. I smiled and shrugged. She's her own person. The friend tilted her head. That's generous. She said it like a compliment. But it sat wrong. Too smooth, too calculated. Like she wanted to see if I'd flinch. Later that week, she messaged me on Instagram. You okay? You didn't seem like yourself the other night. For a second, I considered answering honestly. Just for a second. But I didn't. Because I already knew how it would go. She wasn't really asking. She was gathering. And besides, this was the same friend who'd once said, laughing over brunch, if I ever get married, I want someone like you. Quiet, loyal, doesn't ask questions. I thought it was a compliment then. Now I'm not so sure. That was the thing with her circle. They all seemed to think I was some kind of rare species. A man without ego. A boyfriend who doesn't mind when their partner dances on the edge of impropriety, because he's just that chill. I'd been turned into a blueprint for how women could have it all. Affection without accountability. Attention without boundaries. And her friends? They loved it. Because it gave them something to point to when their own partners asked too much. Look at them, they'd say. He's so supportive. That's what secure looks like. But I wasn't secure. I was shut down. I was quiet because I didn't feel heard. And by the time someone finally asked, I didn't trust the question anymore. Especially not from someone who only leaned in when there was wine, low lighting, and no consequences. I kept thinking this started recently. That things shifted slowly. A little flirt here, a little joke there. That I missed the red flags because they were small, harmless, woven into charm. But then I remembered something from early on. Not a fight. Not a betrayal. Just a moment. The kind you bury because it doesn't hurt enough to process. Until it does. We'd been dating for maybe 6 months. Still in that shiny stage where quirks look like features. It was a double date at some trendy little place downtown. I remember the lights were too low, the music too loud, and she was in that green top that made strangers smile. Halfway through the night, her friend's boyfriend leaned toward me, drunk, but not sloppy, and said, "Man, she's a handful. You sure you can handle all that?" I laughed. It felt like a compliment. Like I'd won something. Then he added, "She's hot." but wild. My girl says she used to cheat on everyone. He said it like it was trivia. Not with malice, with admiration. I blinked. Didn't say anything. I looked over at her, and she was laughing with her friend, completely unbothered. Later that night, I asked her about it. Lightly, half joking. She didn't get defensive. She didn't deny it. She just grinned and said, "That was years ago. Besides, don't you feel lucky I picked you?" And I did. I really did. Because that's how she made you feel, like you'd been chosen by someone who didn't have to choose. Like you'd passed a test others had failed. Looking back, I don't think she ever stopped administering that test. I just stopped noticing I was still taking it. There were other things, too. Little slips. A comment about an ex who never trusted her. The way she bragged that she could make any guy buy her a drink. The pride she took in getting away with things, not lying, just not volunteering. And I kept swallowing those moments like pills. Because I wanted to be the one who was different. The exception. The proof that people do change. But they don't. Not for someone they don't fear losing. Not for someone they see as safe. I wasn't the one. I was the one after the chaos. The placeholder she convinced herself she needed. The calm. The contrast. The guy who made her look like she was growing up. Except she wasn't. She was just getting better at the performance. And I was the prop. My birthday was the kind of day I usually tried to downplay. I never liked attention. Never liked being in the center of a room while people clapped out of obligation. She knew that. And yet, she planned a party. Not a quiet dinner. Not a night with a few close friends. A rooftop gathering. Loud, curated, Instagram-ready. People I barely knew showed up with bottles I didn't ask for. There was a cake I didn't want. A speech I didn't approve. And she gave it anyway. She toasted to me, but it wasn't really about me. "I always say he's my rock," she began, glass in hand, eyes on the crowd. "Because he lets me fly. Even when I drive him crazy, he stays. That's love, right? He's the only man who never tried to control me." Everyone laughed. Someone clapped. I stood there smiling. The kind of smile that aches in your cheeks, not your heart. I wasn't angry. I was humiliated. Not loudly. Not obviously. Just slowly. Softly. Like being embarrassed by someone who knows you won't say anything in return. She continued, "You guys don't know what it's like living with someone so calm. I could light the apartment on fire, and he'd probably just ask if I needed a match." They all laughed again. I sipped my drink and tried to be a good sport. Because the worst thing you can do, in moments like that, is look hurt. It ruins the mood. It makes you the problem. Later, as people danced and took photos, one of her friends, the same one from before, walked by and said, "You're such a good man. I don't know how you do it." And that's when it hit me. This wasn't a celebration. It was a stage. And I was the setup. Not the hero. Not even the villain. Just the foil. The straight man to her chaos. The punchline everyone could agree was too mild to protest. I left my own party early. Told her I had a headache. She kissed my cheek and said, "Ah, you're such a grandpa." I smiled again. That same aching smile. In the elevator, I looked at myself in the mirrored wall and thought, this isn't a relationship. It's a PR campaign. And I'm the brand ambassador for someone else's story. I wasn't being loved. I was being used. Not cruelly. Not violently. Just thoroughly. She started tagging me in posts. Little things at first. Memes about emotionally stable boyfriends. Reels about introverts who calm down the storm. Relationship advice videos with captions like, "Find someone who lets you be your full self, even when you're a lot." People thought it was sweet. They commented things like, "You guys are goals. He's so secure, love this. She's a handful, but he's her match." But it didn't feel sweet. It felt like I'd become a mascot. A cautionary tale for men. Look what happens when you don't complain. You get to be loved publicly, as long as you stay silent privately. One of her posts actually read, "I used to be toxic. Now I have a partner who holds space for me." She didn't ask me before posting it. Didn't ask how I felt being part of her rebrand. I stared at that phrase, hold space for me. What did that even mean? That I exist in her life as a pause button? A blank room for her to yell into? The comments poured in. People cheered for her growth. No one asked how I was doing. Not even her. And then came the podcast. Her friend had a small channel, Modern Love, Unfiltered. She was a guest. I didn't even know she'd done it until the episode dropped. I only found out when someone from work said, "Hey, your girlfriend really aired some stuff, huh?" I listened to it that night. Alone. She talked about our relationship as if I wasn't real. "He's so emotionally available. Like, weirdly chill. I could probably tell him I cheated, and he'd write me a poem. They laughed. Hard. Then she added, I used to go for toxic guys. Now I date someone who doesn't challenge me. They called it healing. They called me healing. Like I was a therapist with benefits. A human comfort blanket. A safe space to confess into, never to care about. No one saw the irony. No one asked what it's like to be someone's stability, without ever being seen as a storm yourself. The thing is, I did have storms. I just got good at hiding them. Because in her world, anything other than calm was a threat. So I nodded when I should have spoken. I clapped when I should have walked away. And I smiled when I should have left. That podcast didn't end our relationship, but it ended the illusion that I was a participant in it. I wasn't her partner. I was her character reference. And the world she'd built around me, the image, the praise, the applause, suddenly felt like a prison. Except the door had always been open. I just hadn't realized I was allowed to leave. It wasn't a dramatic moment. No slamming doors, no screaming match, no cheating revelation. It was a look. That's it. We were at another gathering. Another night she forgot to tell me would involve half a dozen people I barely knew. This time it was a rooftop bar with glass walls, curated lighting, and influencers trying to act casual while calculating angles. She wore red, not her usual color, and when I said she looked good, she just smirked and said, I always do. It was the way she said it. Like the compliment bored her. Like it wasn't enough unless someone else overheard. Later, she was talking to a guy. Some model type. Tall, lacquered smile, wide arms, the kind of guy who laughs at his own reflections. I didn't mind at first. I'd seen this scene before. But this time, when she glanced back at me, I caught it. The flicker in her face. A test. That look said, let's see if you'll do anything. Let's see if you'll finally break character. I didn't. I just looked at her. And for the first time, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel jealous. I didn't feel like clapping. I just felt done. Not angry. Not humiliated. Just over it. She walked back over eventually, acting like nothing happened, like the moment didn't count. She slipped her arm through mine and said, You're being quiet. And I said, You're being watched. She blinked. By who? I shrugged. Everyone always. That's kind of the point, right? She laughed. What's that supposed to mean? I didn't answer. Because that's when I realized something. She didn't need me to love her. She needed me to validate her, to bear witness to how lovable she could be. And as long as I played that role, she didn't have to do the hard work of actually showing up for someone. I saw it all at once. The performance. The growth. The endless cycle of chaos and calm, always tilting in her favor. She'd call it evolution, but it was just a better mask. And me? I was the mirror. Polished, still obedient. Useful only when reflecting something beautiful. But mirrors crack. And when they do, they don't shout. They just stop showing you what you want to see. That night, I didn't fight. I didn't protest. I just stopped responding the way she was used to. She could feel it, even without words. And that's when the shift happened. Not in her. In me. I didn't break up with her. That would have made it clean. Respectable. Expected. Instead, I started doing something small. Something she couldn't immediately call out, because she'd trained me too well to be supportive. I started remembering who I was before her. I reconnected with old friends. Quiet ones. People she used to call too boring or not ambitious enough. I went to lunch with coworkers I used to dodge. I joined a gym. Not to transform, just to feel my own body again. I posted a photo one day, nothing dramatic. Just me, at a park, with someone from my past. Her name was Elise. She and I had dated for 6 months years ago. It ended gently. No fireworks. Just bad timing. But we stayed cordial. She was the one my girlfriend used to mock. Called her wholesome. Said she looked like someone who brought casseroles to church potlucks. Unthreatening. That word stuck with me. It's funny how the things people dismiss become the things you crave once you're starving. I posted the photo on a random Thursday. Just me and Elise, sitting on a bench, laughing. No caption. No cryptic emoji. Just the image. Within 15 minutes, my phone lit up like a warning sign. Who's that? Is that your ex? Why would you post that without telling me? Are you trying to make me jealous? I didn't answer right away. Because for once, I didn't know her context. Let the comments do their thing. Let people wonder. I went to bed that night without responding. When I woke up, I saw that she'd posted something too. A photo of us from months ago, suddenly resurrected, captioned. Some people forget who was there through it all. She never tagged me, but everyone knew. People took sides in the comments. Some subtle, some vicious, some defending her, some questioning why she cared so much if it was just a picture. And me? I just watched. Watched her scramble to reassert the narrative. Watched her try to remind people I was hers, even though she'd spent so long pretending I was just an accessory to her freedom. That's when I understood something. She didn't love me. She loved being seen with me. And when that spotlight moved, even slightly, she panicked. That's what narcissism looks like in modern relationships. Not screaming, not abuse, just panic when the mirror turns away. I didn't delete the photo. Didn't post again either. Silence, I found, is its own kind of loud. And for once, it wasn't mine being used against me. She didn't ask me to take it down. Not directly. Instead, she sent a text that said, "I don't know what this phase is, but I hope you get through it." No anger. Just a perfectly curated line. Ambiguous, passive-aggressive, and designed to make me feel like the one spiraling. I didn't reply. Not because I was being cold. Because there was nothing left to say. We didn't fight. Didn't have a dramatic sit-down. Didn't break dishes or cry in a doorway. We just faded. She stopped inviting me to things. I stopped asking what she was doing. We shared a bed like distant cousins sharing a seat on a bus. Polite, avoidant, half asleep. 3 weeks after the photo, I moved out. Quietly. Cleanly. No grand exit speech. Just a single sentence on a sticky note, left on the kitchen counter. "I'm not the man you want." I was just the one who didn't fight back. She didn't respond. At least, not to me. I heard from a mutual friend later that she told people I needed space to find myself, and that she supported my journey. And you know what? Fine. Let her have that version. Let her keep telling people she's proud of the way we handled it like adults. Because that's what this always was, a performance. And I finally stopped auditioning. She messaged me a month later. A photo. Of us. Smiling at a wedding, from a year ago. No words. Just the image. I stared at it for a while. We looked good. I looked happy. But I wasn't. Not really. That smile was the kind you learn to wear like armor. To protect the peace. To keep the show running. I didn't respond. And in that silence, I felt something shift. Not in her, in me. A sense of weight leaving. Like realizing the backpack you've been carrying for years wasn't yours to begin with. She kept posting. Kept writing vague captions. Kept being adored online. And I stopped watching. I stopped wondering what the comments said. Stopped checking if she mentioned me in her stories. Stopped tracking the applause. Because I'd finally accepted something. Being loved out loud means nothing when you're neglected in silence. Now, months later, people still ask about her sometimes. They say things like, "You two seemed so solid." And I just nod. Because sometimes it's easier to let people keep the fantasy, especially when they never saw the cracks anyway. But inside, I know, I wasn't the boring one. I was the one who made it easy to pretend. And now that I'm gone, she has to find someone else to clap for her. Let's see how long he lasts. If being with someone makes you feel invisible, don't wait for them to notice. Disappear on your own terms.